So I request you, please come in, be seated. We are now starting this special plenary one, this session about setting the agenda for greening education for a sustainable future. So I request all of you, please settle down, and the delegates who are outside, please come in, be seated. All the delegates outside the auditorium, you are requested to please come in and be seated. It's the time for our first session. So all the delegates who are still outside the auditorium, you are requested to kindly come in, settle down, be seated. We are starting with our first special plenary. Delegates are requested to come inside the auditorium and be seated. This is the time for the first special plenary, and we are starting with this right away. So all the delegates who are outside, requested to please come in and be seated. Dear delegates and the participants who are outside the auditorium, I request you please come in. This is the time to start with our first plenary. So I request you please come in, be seated, and join us for this special plenary one. So thank you so much for coming back. Little bit on time, yeah. So welcome back all of you, and here we are with this special plenary one, and that's gonna set the agenda about what we were talking about, greening education for a sustainable future. Friends, as we all know that education is a powerful tool that empowers learners of all ages to tackle global challenges, and environmental education is dynamic and continuously evolving to adapt to modern changes. Greening education embeds sustainability into all aspects of learning, instilling the knowledge, skills, values, and attitudes necessary for responsible stewardship of the planet. So I would like to share with you that this is the reason we have two roundtables in this session. The first is the Vice Chancellor's Roundtable, and the later one is the Educators Roundtable. So let's start with the Vice Chancellor's Roundtable. For that, I would like to invite the eminent galaxy over here on the stage, and I'll request you all to please join me in welcoming them on the stage. Firstly, please join me in welcoming on the stage Vice Chancellor Ashoka University, Sonipat, Haryana, Professor Somak Rai Chaudhary. Please put your hands together for him. I request Professor Shambhu Nath Singh, Vice Chancellor, Central University, Tejpur, India, to please join us on the dais. आपकी तालियों की गड़गड़ाहट बनी रहे तो it will be a very nice welcome. I request Professor Prithvi Yadav, President and Vice Chancellor, Sir Padampat Singhania University, Udaipur. Please put your hands together for him. I also take this honor to invite on the stage Professor Raghuveer Singh, Vice Chancellor, KR Mangalam University, Gurgaon. Please welcome him on the stage. Also, I would like to welcome on the stage Professor P.K. Biswas, Vice Chancellor, Jagran Lake City University, Bhopal. Please put your hands together for his welcome. Also, I would like to invite on the stage Professor Nidhi Naga Bhatla, Senior Fellow and Program Lead, United Nations University, Belgium. Please put your hands together for her welcome. So the dignitaries are over here on the stage, and now we are starting this Vice Chancellor's Roundtable. But before I hand over the mic to the chair and moderator of this session, let me please give a brief introduction of him, because he's going to do the rest of the introductions, but I'll do it for you, sir. So let me please share with you that Professor Somak Rai Chaudhary, who is the chair and moderator of this session, is currently the Vice Chancellor of Ashoka University, having taken up the role in January January 2023. Dr. Rai Chaudhary has an extensive academic background. He completed his undergraduate studies at Presidency College, University of Calcutta, and then pursued physics at Trinity College, University of Oxford, on an Inlax Shiv Dasani scholarship. He earned his PhD in astrophysics from the University of Cambridge, supported by the Isaac Newton Studentship, and was awarded the J.T. Knight Prize. So, my dear friends, I am now handing over to the chair, Professor Rai Chaudhary. Please put your hands together for him.
Thank you very much indeed. Thanks. And thank you everybody for joining us today to start off this important workshop, which will last 2 days. And our job in this panel is to set the context for greening universities for a sustainable future. And as you heard, I'm trained in astrophysics, but I am a vice chancellor of a liberal arts university near Delhi, which is an interdisciplinary university which has 3,000 undergraduate students, and we're building it up as a sustainable campus, a campus that prioritizes awareness and education for issues to do with the environment and the earth to get together, but in an interdisciplinary sense. And I think that is one of the reasons why we, a bunch of educators here, have been chosen to set off this workshop, the theme being the value of education in sustainability activities. The future, of course, belongs to young people who are young now, and India is rapidly becoming the youngest country, the country with the largest young population in the world, and they will have to inherit the future. And we have to train them, as we heard also in the talks in the morning, in the schools, and in particularly in the setting of universities, where far more technical and in-depth education is given and experienced, to make sure this generation understands the nature of the crises that are facing us. I think one of the things that we want to look at, of course, all through this workshop, is how we heard in the morning how we are falling behind in terms of the fulfillment of the 2030 goals of the SDGs set by the UN, and India has a very, very important role to play. Indian university campuses have a very important role to play in highlighting how we can fulfill these goals and move forward, but also look forward for the next decades and centuries to come. In the universities, one of the things that we do across subjects, and of course, you know, I'm an astrophysicist. I look at stars, I look at galaxies, I look at planets, but then I also look at the technology that needs to be evolved to help us look at the far reaches of the universe. The technology that we evolve is also used to do other things, to do many other subjects, they have many other uses. For example, the same detectors that we used to look at distant galaxies can be turned towards the Earth, and we look through those detectors and through the same mechanisms to study the Earth itself and the oceans and the terrains and study what's on the Earth around us. So it is all connected, and this is the whole point of holistic education. So one of the things that the universities do is to actually make sure that research happens across disciplines. Doesn't matter whether you do economics or sociology or philosophy or physics or chemistry and engineering. It happens all across all disciplines. But all of these disciplines, the education has an environmental undertone, an undertone to make sure that there is awareness of the connection of the disciplines to environmental awareness and awareness of how sustainably we can move forward. And so this needs to not just be in the research, but as we heard in the morning also, needs to be integrated in the curriculum of the various the courses that we teach, but also in the discussions that happen in the classrooms. As you know, more and more universities are becoming geared towards, as in the NEP guidelines, geared towards looking at the connections between subjects and also looking at discourses, research in the classroom, looking at different projects rather than information exchange between teachers and students. And so students have to be able to start understanding in discussions as to what the importance of these subjects are in their curriculums. But more importantly, we have to, moving forward, make sure that the students in the universities have the right skills to deal with the with this century, the problems of this century, the skills to establish themselves in life, but also skills to help the environment and the goals of sustainability around us. So how can we in these universities and schools train students to have the right kinds of skills is something that we should discuss. And more importantly then, as students go off their schools and university education, they have to engage in the community and not just in spreading the awareness, but actively be involved in evolving programs to do with sustainability ideas. We also should discuss today in the morning panels how the best practices from the international activities that are going on all over the world, because everything is connected, all over the world, we have to look at what other countries are doing, what other systems are doing, what other universities and schools are doing all across the world, and translate that to the Indian context to see how we can Indianize a lot of the activities that are going on in helping the climate, helping the environment, helping sustainability. And so we have to make sure that through experiential learning, students get involved in various activities that are consistent with what happens across the globe. And so we're going to talk about that in this panel, and I hope throughout this exercise we have in these 2 days. We are aware that each country has its own resource constraints. Each country can have its policies that are geared towards, not in the same way, geared towards the support of the environment and support of sustainability. We have to identify where we are falling short, and as a result of what policy we are falling short in the certain directions that we want to move in order to fulfill the goals set by the United Nations. And in India, our focus should be how the indigenous knowledge, our traditional knowledge systems, the context that are set by the government, by the country, and by the environment that we live in, can help us in our own way deal with these issues at large. So that's to set the tone of today. We're running a little late, so we'll try and see how to finish these 2 sessions before people get very hungry and go for lunch. So we can start straight away. I have a very, very eminent panel here sitting with me on stage, and what I will do is I will ask my colleagues here on stage to talk for about 5 minutes or so each, just to start it off. I would ask you to introduce yourself. I will give a very basic introduction, but introduce yourself, tell us about what you do, and then talk about your own connection with the subject of how universities can set the context for education towards sustainability and towards green campuses, and also talk about how your own institution is actually helping to do that. Very eminent colleagues here. I'll actually first call Professor Shamunath Singh, who's sitting next to me, the Vice Chancellor of one of the most important central universities, Tezpur University, to talk about, sir, do talk about the context of sustainability education and education about the environment, both in general and on your campus.
Thank you, Professor Rajchandri. Thank you very much. Like Professor Chaudhary earlier said, he is person of science technology and running liberal arts institution. My case is just reverse. I'm heading the institution which is primarily science technology university, basically primary. But I'm not from that segment, I'm from social sciences. So this is the kind of, but I have concern about this issue. In fact, I got the opportunity to attend World Summit on Sustainable Development by UN in 2002 in Johannesburg, I think. Even before that, I have some concerns, some sensitization about this issue. And as educationist, education is the very key role and very key stakeholder in this context. Because if we educate our young generation or some kind of sensitization toward this young generation, that will make a very good change, and our youth will be game changer. These days, very less educational institution, especially higher educational institution, have this dedicated department of environment science. And I think this is not possible overnight to start environment science department in each and every higher education institution. School education have different scenario. NCERT may ensure that environment education should be part of curriculum. I think that kind of practice even higher education institution can adopt. UGC have some suggestion to higher education institution. At least few modules related to environment will be associated with all the discipline. You are studying science, technology, social science, humanities, any subject. These are compulsory module, must be injected with all subjects. That will make sure that basic level of sensitization towards this issue will be gain some more space and more advocacy. Because this decentralized model would be better for this. In fact, we started this practice in our university. I think we injected modules related to environment science in each and every subject. Either it's engineering subject or science subject or social science subject or whatever it is. That will make a better deal to this concern, because the issues related to environment is very, very important and a common challenge to whole humanity, not only one country or one segment or other segment. It's a common challenge for total mankind. That's why we need to deal with collectively with this issue. And educational institution is the key stakeholder in this context. If we start with this educational institution, we will take some better result in future. So I think this is need of the hour. We can start sensitization programs, some advocacy programs, some injected with each and every subject. That is my humble suggestion in this context.
Thank you very much, Professor Singh. Can I just move on to the rest of my panel? Today here, the United Nations Universities is represented by Professor Nidhi Nagabhatla, who is based in the Brussels campus of the United Nations University. And can you talk about a little bit of what you do and please take this discussion forward? Particularly talking about interdisciplinarity, if you can. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So I'll start with giving a word or two about United Nations University. We are a UN think tank with three-pronged functions: doing advanced research, producing knowledge, then doing science, society, or knowledge, society interfacing through capacity building, and the third function is science, policy interfacing. So the knowledge that we generate should lead to capacity building and for policy-related decision-making and policy evidence for policy backing. So with these three functions, I'm heading the program on nature, climate, and health. It's a vast portfolio. We deal with the implementation of Agenda 2030, the Sustainable Development Goals. We acknowledge that SDG is very central to it, as are other SDGs, because SDG 4 implementation will directly or indirectly impact the implementation of other SDGs. Take, for instance, the point that was raised in the opening session on sustainable production and consumption, lifestyles, and mindsets. We can only educate our citizens, our stakeholders, to inculcate that mindset through proper education and capacity building. So education and capacity building. For us at United Nations University, we are supporting member states, their agencies, their stakeholders, not just limited to young professionals, but across and throughout the stakeholder value chain. The modality through which we function is we support member states on a need-based proposals, but we also function with certain specified universities. For example, now I'm working with some regions, and the 4 universities that I'm primarily working with is Imo State University in Nigeria, McMaster University in Canada, St. Andrews University in Bolivia, and Ghent University in Brussels, to cover the 4 UN regions. And looking forward to explore more collaboration and partnership opportunities in Asia, since now I'm sitting in Brussels, so there will be more opportunities. The one thing is that we don't have to reinvent the wheel. We are already dealing with the umbrella of targets and goals at the national, subnational level, our obligations to different multilateral environmental obligations and many other UN protocols and declarations and agreements. We just have to boost our game in implementing and enforcement, monitoring and evaluation, charting out impact pathways that lead us to desired outcomes rather than just ticking the boxes. So that's something that we do continuously in our engagement with member states and academic institutions in those member states. The second point I want to highlight is we have to somehow unlearn the conventional education paradigms of disciplinary bias and move beyond the disciplinary bias to interdisciplinary approaches and frameworks, to multidisciplinary trainings and programs, agenda setting curriculum that encourages multidisciplinary approaches to research agenda setting, to research proposals, to research investigations, and such multidisciplinary approaches are acknowledged and incentivized. We also look a step more in transdisciplinary education, because we have to take feedback of the society. We can't be there, we can't be taking decisions on their behalf that this is what suits you. We have to do that in a more consultative and in a collective participatory manner to, again, pick up the point of inclusion and equity from the opening session. The third point that I really want to highlight here, and I just have 4, so bear with me, is that the agenda on transformation of environmental education is not old. I'll do a bit of time travel. In 2001, when I was working with ISRO, I attended my first conference in Delhi. That was on environmental education. So 24 around 23 years down the lane, we are still talking of refining and reforming, which is a promising, of course, narrative. But I think we need to also understand that we might have to speed up, because the young professionals are not just in the classrooms. They are online, they are around us, and the modalities of learnings have changed. This is not about just content sharing. We also have to move beyond the mindset of just giving education that promotes analysis. That's kind of breaking into segments to more synthesis. That's sort of giving them a problem they can synthesize to create solutions that fit the context, that are specific, fit to purpose and specific to a sector or value or knowledge systems that apply in their settings and context. And lastly, I would conclude that the education and capacity building programs, activities, and agencies should also take a stock of what kind of skills are needed at the job market. We know that AI is at our door. In fact, it has entered in. So do we need to kind of look into plugging in some of these emerging technologies in preparing our future champions to be more impactful in their professional space after they leave the academic space? I'll pause here. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Dr. Neethi. That was a very good, actually very good teaser to the discussions that we might have later on. And I'm glad you brought in the issue of AI into this, because of course it's become a buzzword in almost every wake of life now. But I think it's going to play a very, very important role, artificial intelligence methods, in our coping with environmental issues and sustainability issues in the coming future. And of course, we can come back to these issues later on. Can I invite another very eminent person we have on our midst, Professor P.K. Biswas, who's currently the Vice Chancellor of Jagran Lake City University in Bhopal. Of course, before this, you've been all around the world in various important leadership roles throughout your career. And so this is one of the reasons I brought you here, is to talk about what we can learn from the initiatives that's been going on all around the world, which you have experienced, and how we can implement it on Indian campuses. That's one of the things that you might want to say, but introduce yourself first.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Somok. I think currently I'm, as he said, I'm Vice Chancellor of Jagran Lake City University, Bhopal, one of the finest cities in the country. But more importantly, I had a substantive career in establishing a part of an institution called Indian Institute of Forest Management, that is an autonomous institute of the Government of India. And there, we have been in the business of producing green managers. We have been talking about how sustainable forest management, sustainability, sustainable management and all that. But having spent 30 years in that institution, that has strengthened my philosophy that we should be spreading this kind of what I said, greening mindset. In the morning we were talking about values. What Karthike has told about environmental literacy and the sustainability values. So I thought, I took it upon me that I should be able to do that in other places. So when I have come to this university, the basic idea is to see, unlike school education, there is a very concentrated effort in spreading the ethos of this environmental education, and there is a textbook coming on environmental education by the NCERT and all that. But unfortunately, in higher education, there is no such concerted effort, except that we are saying and trying to build it through the NEP, what NEP document said, Dr. Kasturirangan had said in his message. What is important is that, can you create a green mindset among the undergrad students? Because NEP 2020, we have started implementing since 2022, after 1 year. And what we have tried, this university has a very good multidisciplinary setup. Like we have management, we have law, we have media and journalism, we have language and social sciences, architecture, sports, engineering, not in the sense of STEM, traditional STEM. We are only computer application, AI, robotics and all that. And of course, pharmacy and hospitality and tourism. That is, many times we forget that these are all interesting dimensions if you look at management, hospitality, engineering or media, for example. What I have tried to put in as a Vice Chancellor, that let's have that kind of like we say, scientific temper, let's have that environmental temper. That thinking of environmentalism within the students. And especially undergrad students will go further for the post-graduation, and of course they will also be working elsewhere. So what we do is, as a beginning, we started courses in, say for example, media and journalism, environmental journalism, for example. Media is all about sensationalizing various kind of news, but why not cover certain kind of issues on environments, for example. Development journalism or development communication to build their mindset, that there is something beyond this politics and violence and other kind of things, or pastry and other kind of things. One has to think beyond these kind of things. So we introduce those kind of things. And say, for example, in management school, we said we can have a center for sustainable development. And in fact, we are doing that in a big way. The management students are doing wonderful projects. Even our PhD scholars, they are encouraged, say, for example, they are working on the research theme which focus on green marketing, for example, or focuses on the green HR. See, we believe in DIE, diversity, inclusivity, and equity. So these are the kind of principles under which all our undergrad courses or postgrad courses are running. And also we are part of what is called 2007, United Nations started one movement which is called Principles of Responsible Management Education, specifically focused on business schools. And because I spent my 40 years out of 40 years, probably 38 years or 35 years, I'm in the business education. And that focuses on these kind of issues, sustainability values, social responsibility, and so many other things. And those kind of things we are slowly integrating. And with the help of PRIA, Participatory Research in Asia, which is based here, and Professor Rajesh Tandon, who is UNESCO Chair Professor. So what we have started doing, now each of our courses has intensive, because community outreach is extremely important, because if you are talking about sustainability, this cannot happen without the communities who are involved in the various kind of projects on various kind of issues, whether it is health, whether it is education, whether it is sanitation, whether it is anything. So communities' perspective is extremely important. So along with them, we have introduced this year one course on what is called as integrating social responsibility through UGC's credit-based internship, that which tries to encourage compassion, empathy, courage, resilience, scientific thinking, creative. These are kind of things to understand. They should understand. Believe me, most of the students do not know how their country runs, for example, whether Panchayati Raj or state level or the central level. They do not know what is our democratic function, the way you function. Many people don't understand what is a caste, what is a class, what is a tribe. They think everything is same. They don't understand they have all nitty-gritty. And believe a state like Madhya Pradesh or Odisha or Chhattisgarh or Jharkhand, there is huge population of tribals, and there each one of them is unique with their own cultural and ethos and environmental values. And their traditional wisdom and knowledge is immense, and which unfortunately are not being documented properly. And we are encouraging our students to do intensive projects, community-based projects along with them. So that is any important dimensions, because unless until we are with the community, so community outreach is a very important part of our curriculum. And another important thing is that we have something called open elective. Say for example, a management student can do something on IPR, intellectual property rights, or an environmental student can do something on environmental journalism, or management student can do something else in some other school. So that kind, and we have a public policy group also. So we are trying to inculcate that outreach to the communities, because see, classroom teaching is fine, it's okay, but unless until people go and spend time with the communities who actually will hold the principles of sustainability, we are nowhere. So that way higher education has to modify, and LEP gives that kind of flexibility to have that kind of opportunities to play with the curriculum. And accordingly what we have done, at undergrad level we have environmental studies, we have disaster management, we have CSR audit, we have social entrepreneurship, just to make them aware and create a greening mindset. Because unless until mindset is created, scientific temper on greening issues are created, probably as higher education institution will fail. And that is a kind of a challenge we have to face, each one of us. Each university has to have that kind of challenges. And of course, outlays, when they have a outreach, they can do plantations, they can go to old age home, they can go to all kind of things. Our students also play. For example, these journalism students make a lot of nukkad nataks and all that, just to create awareness, go to the village. Our law graduates, they go to villages, they have a legal aid clinic, just to help the communities to how to talk about environmental issues. Say for example, forest rights acts, tribal rights act are there. Not See, we have created a lot of acts, a lot of legislative provisions are there. But do you think they are aware? Do you think they are aware of their rights? That is where the students' community play an important role. They are very large strength we have, which we can utilize for the promoting these kind of issues and make people aware of their rights. I think I'll stop here.
Well, thank you very much. I mean, I think you raised some very, very important issues. First of all, traditional knowledge is there everywhere. And amongst the communities, particularly in our country where there's a diversity of traditional knowledge, traditional communities always concentrate on sustainability because they have to. They have to. And so it's only in urban societies, in more advanced urban societies, that we actually are very short-sighted, have been blindsided by non-sustainable lifestyles. And so going back is very important. But also we talked about the national education policy and how it is now being implemented in universities across the country. And two of the most important features that have been introduced in the NEP are, as you said, internships. Internships are compulsory, and so all students have to be interns in some project or the other, at least for 2 credits. And this is a big opportunity of actually sending out our undergraduates to experience the real world outside the university's walls and to see how they can participate in social issues, not just in interns in big companies. But the second thing that we also are being told by NEP is to emphasize on skills and to give students skills, green skills, in particular skills that will help them understand the issues involved in this. And so I was wondering whether we could carry on the conversation in that vein. We have, in the last member of the panel today, is Professor Prithvi Yadav, who is the President Vice Chancellor of Sir Padampad Singhania University in Udaipur. Professor Yadav, please carry on the conversation and talk about how your university is dealing with this.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for giving me the opportunity. Coming out my experience, and today I would like to bring it the 3 issues which we are all struggling at the university campuses. Starting from my background, coming out from the IIM, IITs, and the Narsimunji symbiosis, being the first skill university in the country, I had the opportunity to head the concept of bringing the skill education in the higher education. That was the experience, and that's the challenge. I wanted to bring it here before all of you, since we have been discussing the skilling, developing the skills, and moving forward, the concept of green skilling, which is coming out in a big, big way. But the irony is, when we talk about the association between the university and the industry, and also the corporate making into the part of the universities, either part of the academic curricula or part of the industry in the internship associations, that's a big, big gap. I was analyzing the 7-8 reports last 3 years. Either we talk about the World Economic Forum report, or we talk about the Coursera skills report. Every year they bring out the report. Or we talk about NASSCOM's, the futuristic employment report. Or we talk about the EY and FICCI report. In all these reports, it is being all highlighted the new skills to be developed, new skills required in today's context to survive in the corporate sector. And we talk about if those kind of these skills, we find all types of skills related to the technology-driven, digital skilling, reskilling, upskilling, then the AI related, the skilling, creative and design thinking, we are all talk about. Then the technology integration based curricula and skill gaps, what we perceive in the corporate sector and what we do in the university setup. That's huge. Now in these all context, as of now, industry is not talking about the green skilling. That's the aspect we need to make it more louder, more visible to all. Along with all these skills, the green skilling is very, very crucial, very, very important. That's the aspect I wanted to bring it here. And also my experience of running the first university in the higher setup, bringing the skill concept in the university setup. Today, we have almost every state one skill university. But when we talk about the pedagogy, the academic curricula in the skill university concept, it's not only bringing some technological aspects in the curricula that suffice the concept of skill. It's entirely different. When we talk about our model, which we had imbibed from the German model, German universities model, if you all recall, there are two basic universities exist in the German. One is the applied sciences and another is the basic sciences. So applied sciences are termed as skill universities, and their pedagogies, their academic curricula is very different than the traditional universities. And that is the concept we have brought in our country, being the first skill university at Symbiosis University of Applied Sciences. There we have differentiated the classroom component, practical component, and skill component. And we have clearly differentiated that how to implement, how to have the concept of practical, how to have the concept of skills. And these three differentiations, we have made it in the part of the curricula. And that entire learning system goes in a manner, 30% goes learning from the classroom component, and 70% goes from the practical skills and internships. So that's the model, that's the concept. We wanted to now bring it to the university setup, all university setup, to make it the new education policy 2020, what we all talk about, that has the preamble of the concept of skill. So in that context, I wanted to have it that along with all those skills, the corporate sector, which is they are talking about, that should also be included the green skilling. And that green skilling should be included in that manner in the curricula, and it should be part of the every program in an integrated manner. So that's the need of the time, and that's the message I wanted to convey. And I'm thankful that, yes, this conference, last 3 years I'm being part of this conference, and loudly they have been promoting the concept of the environment education. It's not simply teaching the environmental science or some subject of the environment in the university setup. It's the how do we integrate the concept of environment, concept of green skilling in existing program, and make it more adaptable, make it more acceptable in the society, in the community, or in the corporate sector. So that's the message I wanted to convey, and thanks for Professor Chaudhary for giving me the opportunity, and I'll put forward some more point, okay, later if I get the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Yadav. I think the whole point of this panel was to raise some of the important issues that can come into this discourse. We talked about education, undergraduate education on campus, which also is kind of, can be translated into high school education. We talked about how it's importance of practical education and internships. We talked about new ways of looking at interdisciplinarity, bringing in new subjects, upcoming subjects like artificial intelligence. We also talked about how we need to engage with the community at large. Now, we have about 15 minutes left in this first part of today's morning's deliberations. I'd like to throw it open to the audience to see whether there are questions from the audience. Please raise your hand. A mic should go to you. Are there any mics there that can be? Yes, there's a question here, and then we can see who from our panel can address your question. Yes, we'll come to you.
Can I ask a question, sir?
Just let me just one by one, please. Yes, we will come to you.
Thank you so much.
Please introduce yourself first.
So I'm Dr. Kumudini Ravindra, and I'm going to be part of the panel on artificial intelligence as well. But this is something that I think is very critical, and I think it would be good to hear from all of you. In the process of technology and innovation and going further, somewhere along the way, I think we are missing out on fundamentals that are critical. For example, I know universities' engineering curriculum is letting go of mathematics, for example, in the third semester itself, because they're saying students are finding it hard, they're not clearing, and we need to make space for credits for AI and so on and so forth. We talk about computer science engineers who are not coding. They say anyway there's low code, no code kind of solutions, so why do I need to learn coding? If we miss out on the fundamentals and we start deliberating on things that need to be added further, don't you think this is an issue, and who should be addressing that? And it also does go back to sustainability and education as well. So I'd like to hear from you.
Does anybody else want to talk about this? Yeah, please go ahead. I certainly will talk about it.
So maybe I'll give an experience from United Nations University. We held a global conference on guidelines to the application of artificial intelligence in our Digital Innovation Center in UNU Macau, just in the June of 2024. And I think there we laid out the number of opportunities it offers for education sector, but also the concerns. And taking the concerns forward, the EU has already tabled a legislative document, is still being discussed in the EU Parliament as we talk in the monsoon session on how to kind of reorganize the education sector so that AI complements the existing structures of knowledge deployment, and they should supplement, not substitute. So that's one of our philosophy, I would say.
Thanks. I mean, I think, of course, I can address this question myself, being in charge of a university that is actually trying to do just the opposite of what you're saying. At my university, Ashoka University, the curriculum is based such that students do not declare their major till the third semester. We took in this year 800 students. Everybody goes through a completely general system of education where there are 9 courses they have to do. This includes critical thinking. This includes Indian history and culture. This includes quantitative skills and mathematics, principles of science, a course on philosophy and mind, and things like that. And everybody has to do that. And so everybody has to have these basic skills before, particularly critical thinking skills, before they can even think about what they'll major in. I think that is the basis of the National Education Plan, the ethos, I think, as well. The interdisciplinarity should not come at the cost of rigor. And the interdisciplinarity doesn't mean diluting subjects. It means rigorous interdisciplinarity. But also seeing the connections between subjects. When I was young, I went in to do physics. I was not allowed to do biology or history or philosophy. And the most popular course I can tell you last semester in my university was the ethics of AI. There were people, there were 200 students in class and everybody was was debating on the ethical issues, and this is a philosopher talking about AI. That's the kind of thing that we need to bring to this discussion. The climate change and how we deal with climate change, how we deal with sustainability, environment, is a completely interdisciplinary issue. And so we cannot leave back I think it's my personal opinion, cannot leave behind our traditional skills, but only use them in order to gain awareness for the new skills. I don't know whether anybody else.
Yes, I just wanted to add, based on my experience, both at the management and the technology, basics, fundamental and core, that should not be compromised. Whatever is the program, related to that program, the fundamentals, core and basic subjects, that should not be compromised. Beyond that, then the interdisciplinary, multidisciplinary, the choices and the electives come together. That's the part of the further learning process. But the fundamentals should not be compromised, since when they go for the placement purpose, when they go for the corporate selection purpose, there the 70% selections happen from those candidates who respond the basic and fundamental questions. So still that persists. Being in the era of the rapid skilling, rapid digitizations, but still the fundamental plays very, very important role.
Question from that side?
Not audible, right? Hello everyone, my name is Puneet and I'm a research scholar at University of Delhi. I work on traditional water bodies in Delhi and I also teach at Ambedkar University, sir. So one of the critiques of Indian universities is that the kind of epistemology that informs our courses, that informs our pedagogy, is driven by modern knowledge system. So I fail to understand that how, if we are driven by the modern knowledge system, then how would we make sense of the episteme of the indigenous knowledges. So with each passing conversation that we hold around traditional knowledge or indigenous knowledge, it seems like it's merely a lip service that we are playing to the community knowledge. And this critique is also driven from somebody who is sitting in the room, Dr. Rajendra Singh. He has been reviving the indigenous knowledges and water bodies based on indigenous knowledges from last 40 years. And this is his critique of the Indian universities, that students who are coming out of this system would never be able to make sense of his work in Rajasthan. Right? So how do we break this barrier and how do we understand the episteme of Indian knowledges then?
I think this is precisely the question that you are somehow we have a traditional mindset. What we have been learning over the years in the research methodology or what we have been doing, we must do that. I think we have to go beyond that. All universities must radically change their methodology courses which they are doing. Say for example, as he is doing, Rajendra Singh, we were friends for so many years together. See, we don't have to have, like I also agree with this lady, madam, I agree. Some basics are there, but I think the problem with our education system is that we are not giving any space to the students. We are not giving any space to the students' creativity. We are not giving any space to the students to do something differently than what has been being taught. Because we are so obsessed with what we should do. Like he said, in his time, physics, he didn't know what is biology or history. Why one student should not know about the history, or why should not know about the Constitution of India? Why? Why not? So what is important is that, can you have that kind of interdisciplinary, multidisciplinary? And I know, because I come from a very good university which has broken the traditions of this university system in this country. A chemistry honors graduate could take admission in economics and he could top the economics department in JNU. How many universities in the 1970s would have permitted a chemistry graduate student to take admission in MA economics? Not many, not many. It was a blasphemy. But this is where we require a kind of change in mindset of not only the students, I think teachers. I think one of the points which Karthikeya made in the morning session, I think we don't have a facility for training the teachers, changing their mindset to expose to the new methodologies and new kind of things where, say, water consumption, for example, forest management, for example, sanitation and health and hygiene, for example. We don't have this. If you go by the traditional mindset, we cannot do that. So one has to change those kind of methodologies to do that. And honestly speaking, I'm an academician for 40 years, but I can tell you, for school education, you have to have PGT or DGT or some education. For higher education, if you have only PhD, that is enough. But I don't guarantee that having a PhD you can be a good teacher. Not necessarily. And I stand by my opinion that you don't have any such methodology by which you make a good teacher at the higher education. Though in the school and primary school and secondary school, we have all kind of trainings and all that. No training. NET, you qualify or have a PhD. That is not entirely the right kind of solutions. I think we have to go beyond that tradition.
I want to add just few point more. The things you are talking about, nobody is demeaning our traditional knowledge. In fact, if you see, in NAP 2020, there is a special provision of Indian Knowledge System, ICSE, right? In ICSE, there is all which kind of traditional knowledge we have in past. That is also, every thing must be studied and formulate with our modern needs, right? In our tradition, even worshipping of ponds, rivers, trees, everything is available. So why? What is the value of this environment and sustainability out of that? In fact, the crowd, we think there is illiterate. They are more closer to this environmental issue, and they love trees, they love river, jungle, everything. So there is so many connotation about our traditional knowledge. That is, IKS is now on forefront. Every university opening the center of that, right? So don't worry about that. We are reviving our knowledge system, don't worry.
We'll have only, we're running out of time. We'll have only one more question. Who has the mic? Let's see. Who has the mic? The person in the corner has the mic. There you are. I'm sorry. So he had the mic.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the thought-provoking discussion. Our universities are basically preparing our youth to be job ready, to be the workforce for the future, and we are basically training them to appear for the campus recruitment at the end of their graduation or post-graduation. Okay, but how are we sensitizing them make them understand there is limit to growth. The youth are being trained to have as much as possible, as soon as possible, to find best possible, highest paying job, to consume as much as possible, as soon as possible. But we need to sensitize them that they have to understand the limit to growth. They have to be sensitive to the environmental issues, the problems that the sustainability problems that we are facing. So how are we integrating this into higher education, university education? There has been a lot of discussion integrating this into the school education. Up till high school, we are integrating it very well. But very little is being done at the higher education level. So thank you.
So, sir, this side. I just request, sir, this side. Humble request, just give me 30-40 seconds to make a very different point than whatever everyone else is talking, which is relevant to the discussion. Thank you so very much. I am Dr. Lipika Sharma, advocate by profession. I have a PhD in law. Traditional knowledge are tool to mitigate climate change. So the perspective I am trying to give, sir, we are talking about education. I have taught 8 years in universities in the capacity of professor as well. So my take on the issue is, WIPO struggling for last 20 years to come out with a treaty to recognize traditional knowledge. We in India have plenty. Lot of patents have been done, and Indian government has been rushing from there to here to protect our traditional knowledge. So my take is, till the time there is no treaty, that's okay, but India, a traditionally rich country, should have its own sui generis legislation. Till the time we don't protect the legal rights of indigenous community, we are stealing from them, and whatever we will be able to do in a huge country will be in pockets only. protect them, bring to mainstream and part of curriculum all through, sir.
Thank you very
Thank
much
you.
for your comment. Thanks.
Thank you.
Can you just round up
Yes.
today?
Just briefly reply to your question. Rather, it's my reaction. I had started my discussion in the beginning that it's a both-way process. The corporates should also realize the importance of the environmental issues, the green skilling, and I was basically touching that particular aspect, that when we discuss what they have brought out in their expectations, last 3 years, all the reports I have scanned, virtually there has not been any place along with all types of skills, all types of competencies required for the corporate sector, any form of the green skilling. So that should be addressed, and once that become the priority for the corporate sector, immediately all these educational institutions, universities would take it up as a priority. So that has to be the integration happen, and
I think,
that's the need of it.
Dr. Yadav, rather than depend on corporate only, this is need of our educational institution. They create green workforce for the future, not corporate.
Thanks very much, and thanks to everybody at the panel for raising some very, very thought-provoking issues. I'm told Mr. Harsh Gupta is in the front row. Would you like to make a comment on what we are talking about?
I think I appreciate what all has been said. I'm Harsh Gupta. I've been a Vice Chancellor. I've been the Secretary to Government of India. The point I wish to raise that we talk of schemes, plans, what we are doing. We must tell what has been the impact, what we have done by this. Because unless until we quantify our impacts, all these plans, the planning, what has come out of it? That is very important.
It's a good point.
Thanks,
actually.
sir.
Very, very, very good point.
And
Does
I
anybody
think the
want to-
best point to conclude on.
Do you want to? Yeah.
I think I totally agree. I think we are in a planning paralysis. I think we need to steer stop efforts. And for the lady there, I think we have all the kind of ingredients we need for implementation of the United Nations Declaration of Indigenous Peoples' Rights, UNDRIP. India is a member state of that. India is signed to it. The idea is to enforce it in your national legislative documentations and enforce it and deploy to in certain modalities that apply for the country. It's not about we don't have pathways, we do. The idea is about political will and civil momentum to see that, to ensure that all the documentation transforms into collective action.
Thanks, Professor Nidhi, and thanks very much for my distinguished colleagues on the panel for this wonderfully stimulating discussion. We must move on because with the next panel will come on stage. Can you, would you call the next
Sure,
panel on
sir.
stage?
But
and Professor
before that,
Felicitation?
we would like to have a group photograph of all of you over here on the stage. So I request you to please take a step forward and we'll have a group photograph. And along with this, we have got some remembrance, like as a mark of remembrance from our side to all of you. That's the memento. So I request Dr. Ram Bhush to please come on the stage and felicitate all the eminent panelists over here. So firstly, we would like to felicitate Professor Somak Rai Chaudhary. So may we please have the memento on the stage? We are really, really thankful to all of you. Next, I would request sir to please felicitate Professor Shambhunath Singh, Vice Chancellor, Central University, Tejpur, India. Here it is for you, sir. Thank you for being a part of the 6th ICSE. Next felicitation is for Professor Prithvi Yadav, President and Vice Chancellor, Sir Padampat Singhania University, Udaipur. Professor Prithvi Yadav, thank you so much, sir, for being here with us. Now we would like to felicitate Professor P.K. Biswas, Vice Chancellor, Jagran Lake City University, Bhopal. Thank you, sir, for joining us. And now we would like to felicitate Professor Nidhi. She is a Senior Fellow and Program Lead, United Nations University, Belgium. Thank you so much for being a part of the 6th ICSE. Let's capture this moment when all the eminent personalities are over here on the stage with us. Thank you so much. With this, I thank the dignitaries for giving us this wonderful session. Thanks a lot. Let's hear it for them, please. And now, friends, it's the time for the Educators Roundtable. As I told you that in this session we are going to have 2 roundtables. So one was the Vice Chancellor's Roundtable that we all witnessed. Now is the time for Educators Roundtable. So I would like to invite the eminent panelists over here on the stage. Please join me in welcoming Director, Bharti Vidyapeeth Institute of Environment Education, Pune, Dr. Iraj Bharucha. Please put your hands together to welcome him. Also, I would like to invite on the stage Professor Rajiv Ahuja, Director, IIT Ropar, India. Please put your hands together for him. Also, I would like to invite Professor Madhanandan Kar, Director, AIMS, Mangalagiri, Andhra Pradesh, Jodhpur. Please put your hands together for him. We welcome you on the stage. I also request Professor Ashutosh Tiwari, Director, Institute of Advanced Materials, Sweden, to please join us on the dais. With your round of claps, I would like to invite CEO ACER, that's Australian Council of Educational Research, Dubai, Mr. Alan Agbert, to please join us on the dais. I also request Ms. Stefiana Fontana to please join us on the stage. She is Fondas in Lombardia per Ambient. I hope I am pronouncing it right. It's FLA from Milan. So I request you to please come on the stage. Please put your hands together for her. So all these eminent personalities are over here, and now we are starting with this round table. And let me please tell you that as we are just going to sum up this round table after quite some time, then we have got a wonderful book that has to be released over here on the stage. So stay tuned, and now I would like to hand it over to the moderator of this session, but I would like to give a brief introduction about Dr. Iraj Bharucha, who's going to be the moderator of this session. So let me please tell you that he has been active in wildlife and nature conservation for nearly 50 years. So he deserves a round of applause, my dear friends. A well-known wildlife photographer, and he has traveled and studied Indian national parks and wildlife sanctuaries extensively over the last 3 decades. He's a surgeon by profession. That's really interesting. So he's surgeon by profession. He works in Pune, and he has authored textbooks on environmental studies for undergraduate courses and books on conservation and biodiversity. So my dear friends, over to you, sir, Dr. Iraj Bharucha. Please put your hands together for him.
Thank you very much, and it's great to be here again. And that's probably because I have been an interdisciplinary teacher all my life, since I've also taught surgery, and I've also taught about environment and wildlife and whatever. But I've been asked to do 3 things. I've been asked to moderate this session and keep the time short. I've been asked to raise a few questions, and I've been asked to bring about a few pointers from my own perspective. So I think I will start with the questions so that my panelists, my very astute panelists, already know what is the theme of this particular session. So I think it's very important that we now begin to understand that this whole business of sustainable development and ESD really has to deal with very many different cultures, both across the world as well as in India, and that this is very often related to biogeographic zones and zonation, and very often related to language, culture, ethics, a whole lot of individual things that happen. So how do we address this in terms of education at school, college level, and so on? The other is, what are the three basic questions I was asked should go now into ESD? And that is so that we do reach our ESD goals by 2030 or perhaps beyond. How do we build capacity, I think, of teachers? And I think that is the most critical thing. How are we going to reach that? There are millions of teachers that will have to be taught about ESD, about the different ways in which teach ESD or make students learn ESD, and what sort of interim steps we would have to take to make that happen, make it a reality. So I think those are the questions that I would like my panelists to look at, apart from the fact that it's very flexible for you to say what you do and what your institution does. As far as the pointers that I was asked to raise, that's a complex one, you know. The first is, we are told nature is reaching a tipping point. I think we've gone beyond that. I think nature has gone into a rebellious phase, a rebellion point. We are pushing Gaia beyond its limits now in many, many sectors of what we do in our daily lives. And I think that's a very important to understand. There have been so many references in this morning to NEP and NCF. And how are we going to get this on the ground? And that's a very important thing. So NCERT now is looking at the 10th standard textbook and the curriculum that NEP has suggested and NCF has suggested. UGC has a committee which has brought up a framework for environment education. And so these are the things that we are following from the curriculum angle. But what we are not looking at is who's going to transact this whole thing. How are we going to do this with this vast country of ours, which is going to become a very important sort of aspect of what we want to do in future? Are we going to make it biogeographic specific? Are we going to make it state specific? Are we going to make it language specific? These are the issues that I think are very important. Are we going to look at rural approaches, urban approaches, and people who actually directly live on resources like tribal folk and forest folk? These are things which I think will have to be looked at. And so a whole new approach now has to come about. And that whole new approach and that change can come from making students practice these things. So if we go beyond this textbook thing or the rote learning part of it, how does the textbook itself become a learning tool for the student? And I think that is what is very critically important. That I don't think we are going to get away from textbooks. They are going to remain for quite some time. So how do we make the textbook into a learning tool? And I think that's what very, very important for us to look at. Involving a whole school, a whole college, a whole university in looking at sustainable development is going to become critically important, because that's the way one can learn, by doing things. And perhaps that is some way that I would like the panelists to talk about. Using those different tools that are suggested in NEP and NCF, like discussion boards, learning by doing, linkages to traditional knowledge systems, so very, very important, critically important, systems thinking, making mind maps and so on, to sort of comprehensively bring about this SDG knowledge. And I think that's very important. But before I end, I think the greatest teacher of sustainable development is nature herself. And if we look at nature from that perspective as a teacher, I think we'll have made SDG possible. Thank you very much. So I would request my panelists to, as I've been told, be very brief. But starting with you, Professor Rajiv, what you could really bring about is what you do and what you feel is very important from the IIT sector.
First of all, thank you, and thank you, Dr. Ram, to invite me here. And as you say that I've said a little bit about myself also and what we are doing. So I want to tell you that I'm living for last 32 years in Sweden, and I joined 3 years back as a director of IIT Roper. And then I get additional charge of IIT Guwahati also. So I was looking for 2 IITs, and it was a challenge, and we learn a lot. Because if you go to the northeast, you have a different kind of biodiversity. And if you come to the north part of India, we come to Punjab, and then it's a different thing. So all IITs are working in all areas, but being in a Punjab, which is known as the food bowl of India, so we put more focus, also emphasis also on agri-tech, and which matches very well what we are going to talk about when we're talking about sustainable or green education. It's well implemented in Punjab as well as in Northeast. So that's keeping in that mind, the PSA office, the Prime Minister Office, Principal Scientific Advisor Office, has given 2 SNT cluster where I was leading at IIT Roper as a Northern India cluster, and then in Northeast it was a Northeastern cluster, SNT cluster. Because when we talk about science and technology, education is a key part, and the sustainability is a key part, and that we are already implementing in both in northern part of India as well as going to do also soon in northeast of India. So technology is going to play a very important role. There is already discussion about AI. So what we are working, and this is already implemented and it's already on the ground, what we are going to talk about. So we are one of the IITs which are leading for agri-tech and water management out of 23 IITs. So we have already working with the farmers. We have already developed the technologies, and we are also working for the AI for agri-tech, and we are going to start for next year. We called digital agriculture. So this is purely based on the AI and digital health. So what we are doing, we have already developed a technology for biodiversity, and which is now developed one of the Swiss company, and we deployed in 35 countries in the world. Most of them are in Europe. So we are working on the biodiversity, how we can not kill the insect which are friendly to the earth, because we are using too much pesticide. And with keeping that in mind, so we are advising our farmers also, and we are doing the soil mapping, and this is all done by satellite. So the farmers get immediately their report about their soil testing, what kind of pesticides they should use. So we are educating our farmers and how they can use the technology in their farm. So that's one of the things what we are doing, and then we want to encourage students also to come in the science and technology, because otherwise when we're talking about this green and education or sustainable education, we have to bring a lot of our kids, especially in science and technology. So we have started the makers space. And this is the lab which is started by alumni from the US, so IIT alumni. So they set up the first lab in IIT Bombay, and the second one is in IIT Roper. So where we are giving the chances, not only our own BTech students, but also the school students, they should come and learn about sustainability, do their own experimentation and design. And we have also developed the technologies. So IIT Roper is manufacturing also. When we say technology, we are manufacturing. We are also, for example, if I have 100 cows, if I want to know which cow is going to be sick tomorrow, so I have the data for that. Then we are using AI. So we have developed those collars which are made in IIT Roper, and we are sending to many countries and many institutions, working with the agri-tech and veterinary institutions. So that's one thing what we are doing. And the other thing is when we talk about renewable energies, because that is one of the part of the clean and renewable energy, is a part of the SDGs. So we are working for hydrogen economy. So this is one of the biggest effort. And I was leading hydrogen storage part when I was in Europe, where we have a leading of almost 100 group within the European Union. So we are want to go for hydrogen, and hydrogen economy is only the sustainable economy, and it's green. So that's the one thing we have advantage. Of course, we can talk about solar, and that's also renewable, and it's also green technologies. And one thing is also that we, as in India, we talk a lot actually, but we don't implement things. So we have to learn that, and we have to change our mindset. Not only the things comes here on the stage and we speak good words, and we don't implement that. So I don't believe in that one. So that's why I say what technology we have developed. And now there's a big initiative is coming from the government. It's also AI for Agritech. Because the ministry has started 3 big projects. One is AI for Agritech, one is AI for healthcare, and one is AI for smart cities. So all these 3 have the content of the sustainability. And education institution is going to play an important role. So I will not take much time. I will conclude with only things to saying that. Because when I joined as IIT as a director, so I am the only director in IIT history where director came from outside and joined as directly as a director. So when I got a chance, when I got a task from the ministry, my task was how to do the internalization of our education system. Other is how to bring industry and academia on the same platform. Because we are producing engineers. We have to also train the companies that how they should be the green also. So otherwise you are doing a scaling and the companies are not using the green technology, they are using the gray or black technology. What's the use? So we have to work with industry and academia. And other thing is that academic institution has to create a trust between industry. Because industry doesn't trust academic institutions. So we have to create that trust by providing the things on the time. So time is very important, and we are already running the late this session. Because this is the issues in India. Because we put so much effort in the opening session rather than the other session. So in the end, the times, we say, okay, now we have not much time, we should warm up everything. So this is, we have to work about the time, because that's why industry doesn't trust on academia, because academia don't run things on time. So we have to keep the time, and we have to deliver on the time. Industry will come us, and India will be one of the biggest economy. And there is a vision of our Prime Minister to see by 2047 is a Viksit Bharat. This is only possible when we go for a sustainable solution, and when the academic institution and industry and all institutions will work together and to achieve this goal. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rajesh, for setting the stone right and talking about the time aspect of this. May I now have Professor Kar, who is Executive Director, AIIMS Jodhpur. Sir, would you tell us what you want to do?
Thank you so much, Dr. Baj. Thank you, Dr. Ram and Dr. Parasar, involving me here. I think I am just like odd man out. I am a surgeon like you also. Yeah, that's both. I will tell the 3 pages about me and my experience with AIIMS and what is the principles of AIIMS, how it is involved with the teaching, then the environment. 3 things I will tell. About me, actually, I was holding 3 AIIMS at a time as a director. There's a different proceed. One is in West Jodhpur, another is in South, another is in Bihar. I have to make the 3 different things, different cultures, different difficulties. This and as an oncosurgeon, I am a cancer surgeon. Oncology is the one subject which actually depends on the multidisciplinary, means multi-professional approach for the treatment. That clearly hints out that we have to take everyone with us and grow. That way, there's a AIIMS culture is like AIIMS build up with the 3 principles. One is the patient care, second is the training, third is the research. Means you have to do patient care, simultaneously capacity building. Third thing is the research. Research means you have to indigenous research, like why it is happening here. During my training period in AIIMS, we have seen that what we are following the guidelines from USA, UK is totally different, because we developed our own database. Everyone is telling that the data, but no one is keeping how we'll keep data. Even environment, even wildlife, I have seen, the people who keep the data, they are not developing. There was an innovation conclave, IIT and AIIMS in Delhi. There is a 50 IITians, they are presenting their innovations. I asked how many of you are concentrating in the developing database, this user-friendly database. Everyone is following like USA, they have developed data, they have developed, because I involved myself, developed the database in Delhi AIIMS. Yeah. Then that is the way you put the garbage, you will get the out garbage. That's why you first is you individually develop your database, your problems, you set up. Second point is the capacity building. Like why we are telling, everyone telling everything, the students who will guide, the teachers. That's why the AIIMS is having the mandate that we have to do the training. Training means first train the doctors, means teachers. That's why usually I am telling in my this in the modern era, to whom we will tell illiterate. This is the learn or relearn. If you are not doing it, then you are an illiterate person. This with the technology development, we have to empower ourselves how we will use these things. That traditional knowledge we have to take along with the new technology. We cannot divide like this is simple things. When laparoscopic surgery came, people thought open is out. We cannot compare father with son. Son may be developed with computer science, but they have to respect that things, like that way. We cannot, absolute things we cannot divide 1 and 2, like that way. We trained our faculty, regularly faculty development program is going on, involving all like state faculties, AIIMS faculties, you have to train, then accordingly involve the students, take the output from the inputs from the students. That was really inclusive concept of training. Third point is that is the research. Research should be indigenous. That is what I am feeling in Jodhpur is not equal in the Andhra. The food habits is different, genetic is different. I am giving one example. When we have done the breast cancer analysis, totally survival was different from US and India, because the genetic makeup is totally different. When I was going from the north to east India, then I will evaluate again. The survival is different from north to east. That way, this is the difference we have to why we keep our indigenous research for particular area. Second point, how it affects the environment. When you see this is like so many nuclear isotopes we are using for diagnostics, initially no one is giving importance how that patient I am giving the nuclear isotope, the urination it will go out, where it will be drained. There is no separate draining system. When we are cleaning everywhere, we are cutting the trees, we are keeping the whole building. The building structure itself is very important for the patient. How the ICU is exposed. Like I am telling one thing, in AIIMS Mangalagiri, very good scenic beauty, but the building is totally mismanaged, misplanned. Inside you will go like claustrophobic. Patient will go 100% psycho in ICU because it is not exposed to the outside. Why? Because the architect is not involved, the doctors. That's why the integration of the both is very, very important. That's why this education matters. This is very, very important points, because the green things you will see, 50% you will be cured during your treatment. That is not there. You are like this. These are the things, few things we have to integrate. We have to train ourselves. Then we have to teach. This education is very important from my point of view. This.
Thank you, Professor Kar. We have a lot of things to discuss in common. I would like to invite now Professor Tiwari, who is Director of Institute of Advanced Materials of Sweden. Professor Tiwari.
Thank you very much. First of all, I would like to thank Dr. Ram for his invitation and also hospitality, nice hospitality, and wonderful conference. I would like to start like my participation here to share my experience. 15 years back, we started International Association of Advanced Materials. It is a non-profit scientific organization based in Sweden. And we have about 100,000 members from 150 countries. So sustainability we adopted 2019, and we came up with the idea how the materials could be participate in this sustainability debate, first of all, in 19. And then we came up with the slogan, Advancement of Material for Sustainable and Green World. And we created a program, R&D Word Link. It means we have to work together in an integration of our knowledge, our expertise, our research, innovation, to solve the people's problem. And with that, we came up in the next phase, which actually the institution which we have created, 4 institutions, Institute of Advanced Materials, AI and Robotics. And when I met first time with the waterman, he said, okay, you guys should more focus on water. So he given another assignment to establish International Institute of Water in 5 continents. So Institute of this IIW Asia, we now about to establish in Jodhpur, by the way. And IIW Europe, we almost completed, and hopefully we will start soon. So here I would like to say one thing is, sustainability is all about inclusion. Like everyone have to work, even from the child to elder, and all the way we have to educate. And as Dr. Shah mentioned, this is a more personalized. And with that, even our campus in Sweden, it's a climate neutral campus. We are giving a task to our students to don't use chemical, learn from nature, and we created all natural, premises as our laboratory. Same thing we did in IIW Jodhpur. We identified the ponds, and we ask our students to study those ponds and see how nature creates sustainability and circularity in the natural entities. So, of course, this is a big debate. In a green education, depends like what we are thinking, but finally we have to deliver and how we can make it, the globally sustainable. It's a big actually effort. I hope 8 billion people will work together and make this goal by 2030 sustainable. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Tiwari. That was really enlightening. And now may I invite Ms. Fontana from FLA. She comes from a very beautiful part of the world, and I hope she'll tell us something about where she actually works.
So, thank you very much for hosting me, having me here. I'm very happy to have crossed the world to come here, actually. My name is Stefania Fontana, and I'm coming from Milano, Italy. I'm a project manager at Lombardy Foundation for the Environment, which is a semi-public foundation which is working for the regional administration of Lombardy in the northern side of Italy. We are involved in supporting as a technical assistant the Lombardy region in an all environment policy cycle. And our main task is to develop projects. So I'm sort of fish out of the bowl because I'm more working on non-formal, informal educational context, because we are facing corporates, companies, and public administration in order to involve them in a more sustainable development paths, applying to the European funding of economical funding. And in every single project we are developing led us to, in implementing, in support of this community, public administration and private sector, interrogated and showed us how agency for sustainable transition require not just knowledge, as often previously said, but mainly the activation of awareness and personal and social motivation. In a word, the values. We were playing an important role in recently in Alpine Space European funding, cooperating with other Alpine, which are Alps are our mountains, our Himalaya, in a shorter scale, cooperating with other Alpine countries in developing some criteria for including sustainability in the involvement of communities, local communities. So basically in non-formal educational context. And these experiences led us to understand how important it is to trigger competences for sustainability in our project context always, even if we are dealing with sustainable development, very hardware, issues. Fortunately, competences are more and more in the agenda of organization at global level. And in Europe, it was recently outlined a framework on sustainability competences in the context of the Green Deal policy packages for the circular economy. And so this gave us a lot of material to work about. But still, these are open several questions in proceeding that push us in proceeding in further path. First, the state of art of research shows a high degree of convergence among scholars on what competence in sustainability are. There are works done by research in a very that best encapsulate the most encompassing framework, identifying the key competence on sustainability, but they are mostly based, at least in Europe, on higher education. And we are completely missing the lifelong learning, the adult education, and the informal context education, educational context. The competence framework for sustainability don't often take into account the different cultural and local context bias and IPs, despite their relevance in achieving a truly sustainable development. And this is how this curiosity was the element that brought me here, because I'm really interested to understand how the cultural context, the cultural heritage can have an impact in developing and triggering values. And last but not least, how to support educators' training in this non-formal and informal educational context for sustainability, how to foster policies and habits, and how to support networks at an international level in order to share knowledge and to share practices. All these elements, all these questions brought us to the point to propose the development, the application of a project at international level. And we are going through the path of application to a very relevant European program, which is the Erasmus. We also have other partners here, the CE India, Mr. Sarabhai and his staff. They will support us in this path with other relevant stakeholders at the international level through the networks of WEC, the World Environmental Education Project. Our project is exactly focused on how to support networks of educators in peer training, taking into account all the elements they gave from their local cultural context. Well, next time I hope to be able to have more news about this program.
Thank you very, very much, Stefania. And I'm sure everybody in this room would love to come and see what you do there. It's a great place to be. May I now request Alan Eckert he's from the Australian Council of Education and Research, to share some thoughts with us. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Barucha. Your questions were even though short, but really insightful and, spanned quite the horizon of this topic. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'd like to thank Dr. Rambhuj for his passionate stewardship of this cause. My esteemed panelists gave a lot of insightful collections of efforts and technologies and a whole lot of strategies from a higher education sector. But from the school's perspective, I thought we must have some representation, so I took it on myself to do that. ACR typically works across the spectrum, but our focus is largely in the school sector. And we do a lot of assessment-related work. So I thought I was in fact told to keep it to 3 minutes, so I'm trying to cut down a 10-minute talk to 3. I'll leave you with some questions, I think. The first question, do we conclude that just building awareness translates into action? Do we conclude that if we actually just teach our students and build that awareness, that they will actually go and act on it? The short answer is no. We've had a lot of panelists actually talk about the disciplinary bias as one of the challenges. We've talked about the curriculum, the pedagogy. My colleague here referred to teachers and educators that needed to be trained. All of those are really important challenges. But if we look at the education pyramid, the base of that pyramid and the largest component of that pyramid is our students. If we were to empower them to action, not just awareness, then we have millions of enabled and empowered individuals who would actually then make a huge difference. How do we go about this? Because currently, like we are failing in our SDG goals, we are actually still failing in building not just the action, but even the awareness. PISA data. PISA is a large-scale international study. It's called the Program for International Student Assessment, which ACER runs globally now in about 90 different countries. PISA has a framework which talks about environmental literacy and sustainability. And you'd be amazed to learn that from 2006 to about 2015, which was, I think, the fourth PISA cycle, it happens every 3 years, the index on achievement among students actually fell over this 9-year period. It fell by 0.05 points. So we are actually not being able to integrate this effectively enough into our curriculum. And where it's being taught in isolation as geography or as biology or as science, it's still a very disciplinary bias. So how do we start to build this momentum where we take it across from being a subject or a discipline to actually being a lifestyle? And that's when we start to embed sustainability into the consciousness of our students. So at a macro level, we have the SDGs, but at a micro level, when we start to talk about a school's carbon footprint, and a lot of schools are doing a lot of really good work. We have excellent teachers who are actually teaching to the curriculum because that's what they're supposed to do. How do we start to enable it? I think the NEP is a great step in bringing in that flexibility to take on a multidisciplinary approach and start to look at building that consciousness where students feel empowered. One of the questions on PISA was, how aware are you of climate change? And do you feel you can do something about it? More than 70% of the students almost felt that they were aware about the challenges, but they did not feel empowered to do anything about them. And that's one of the fundamental challenges. And we talked about community-based programs and involving the community and it being inclusive. And this becomes really the next phase of our education in terms of looking at place-based, project-based learning. So if we contextualize it into the community and students find challenges in the community which they then come up with solutions for, they feel so much more empowered rather than trying to control a climate event like flooding or drought, which they have absolutely no control of. So we want to start to move towards being more interdisciplinary, more community engaged, more project-based, place-based problem-solving approaches where we employ many of these transversal skills that we talk about, but really have not got to a point where we can start to embed them into the curriculum and effectively, in fact, start to assess them. And I think those are our immediate short-term to medium-term challenges in winning this battle. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Alan. You have rounded it up so beautifully that you haven't left any space for me to say anything more. But I'd like to say how diverse this panel has been, and yet how each of us has been, in a sense, inclusive. And that we were all interdisciplinary, and we've all been able to link whatever we do with sustainability. And I think that's what this conference is about. How do each of us, irrespective of what we do, work through this sustainability, make it happen. Thank you very much, all of you. This has been a very interesting panel. I don't know, is there time for questions? She's obviously going to say no.
Certainly take up one question, please, anyone. Yeah, for sir.
I'm Dr. Yogesh Pisolkar from Symbiosis Center for Management Studies. My question is not question, I want to understand how I should go about it rather to the Dr. Rajiv Ahuja. So what you said is absolutely right, but the challenging factor now is students are so focused on the placements. How many actually want the basic knowledge? How many wants to go through the basics? Is a big debatable question, first of all. Second thing is, when you say you have to deliver to the industry. Now the dilemma is here that students are not having the basic knowledge, and I teach, fortunately or unfortunately, I teach at the undergrad level. So they don't have the basic knowledge, so you have to rather make them aware with the basic problems when it comes to the environment, and as well as professional set skills. When you come to the ESG or when you come to the EI, when you are teaching all these particular courses, first you have to register, now then only they will do the practical. Fortunately, that also I, with various exposure, just like this Youth for Earth, we are the participant. All this exposure is given, but always the mindset is that placement. And second is the basic, this is the field that is coming up, and if you start at this early age, at the age of 21, 22, you have a very bright future. How to convince them? This is my simple insights I want from you, sir.
Okay, thank you. Actually, we are, this is a trend in all IITs, and for this, parents are responsible. Because they are driving, when they come to me, they ask me, what is the package of your IIT? That, on the basis of that, they decide which IIT will go, and then everybody wants to go into computer science. It put a lot of pressure. So we are not developing our manufacturing sector, we are just developing a service industry, which is we call IT. So we have to change that mindset. And if you see the difference between IITs and other institutions, so IITs was set up as science-based engineering education. So basics are very important. And why we are not getting those basic in the students? Because our school education system, we have to improve. Because if my kids are already in 10th or 12th level, they have a strong basis, they can fulfill the needs of the industry. Because I always say that research is a key part. I always say that basic science is a mother of innovation. You cannot be innovative without knowing basics. So research and basics and innovations are all together. So I always say that to my students that from the day one, you have to think what you want to do as a startup. And you have to not go for only IT or computer science, go for a manufacturing sector and where you can be the leader. Now you're all going in the same companies and then 23 IITs are competing with each other. Go to manufacturing sector, you will be the king. So this is the need of the hour and we can try and we want them, they should know the research component. That's a problem in our BTech program. We don't have a research as a curriculum. So they don't know what is meaning of R&D. They just want to sit in the AC room and do the coding. So that's what they want to do. All, whether you come from mechanical, civil, any branch of engineering. And other thing, we have to put focus on the material science. And material science is the lowest branch in IIT system. You can find in the end of the year, there will be 2 or 3 seats will be free. So we have to focus materials. And as Dr. Carr said that doctors and engineers has to work. We have to be leader in the medical devices. We should not import. And this thing we have to put in the student's mind. And we should not put pressure on our kids that always do computer science. So this is the only way. It's come from a home and teachers are always there. They want to encourage them, but the family pressure lead them this package issues. So they are not concentrating on the basics rather than only package. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I add to that?
Thank you, sir.
Dr. Baroshi, can I just add to that? I just feel that we are putting the cart before the horse over here. How can we be at a position where higher education institutions are feeling powerless in the face of demand? Our premise is that we are supposed to be preparing our students for the future, for the workforce. And all of the PISA data, in fact, PISA is assessing preparedness for the workforce. So we want to be very clear that this is an agenda we have to drive as educators. And as our Honorable Chairman had said in his address, it's education that is going to drive sustainability, not industry. It's a societal challenge, not a technological challenge. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. I think placement issue is a fact of life, and we'll have to deal with it there. But if, irrespective of where that student goes or what faculty he eventually takes up from school or to college and university, if he has understood the basis of a sustainable lifestyle, I think we've won. So I don't think it's all that bleak that they want placements. The fact is, with that placement, or irrespective of where they go, whether they get that placement or not is another issue. But if they can take the message of ESD that we have imbibed in them, I think we've won.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
Can I one comment? Yeah. This is not in engineering only, this is also in medical. Many fields are remaining vacant because this is the societal change. What is we are projecting to them? This is students or parents, we cannot blame. This is the societal change, how we are putting them into the system. Like parents are competing with each other. Their kids in which branch? They're not in only engineering, in medical, many fields they are remain vacant, no one is joining. This is because there is not a clinical branch, they are not joining there. This is the educational faulty system because we are putting the coaching system should be banned. This is one comment. Then second thing, they should be independently, they should give, they pursue their things. Because we are seeing many parents, they are pushing their children to come to the medical science. And medical science is so difficult, it's not like 5-6 months, either suicidal or living. Because they are not interested. That's why this is the parental pressure and peer pressure. And society, that's why I am making like this. This is a But this transition is coming, gradually this will change, and educational policy is more important, and that is the implementation should be there. Very strictly they should implement. When the coaching system, innovative, students should be innovative from beginning, not like this is the questions, like 720 people are keeping. Like that way. They are pushing every day, every corner. That is the basic things. That is we are not implementing our educational policies in policy levels.
Yes, thank you, sir.
Heading the organization called TER Policy Center. I'm from Pune. I have heard all the experts' opinion, and I agree with everyone that we are inducting environment education and sustainable education in education policy and to the students. But what you will give the people, those who are target-oriented industrialists? The student, in whichever faculty he learn, he study about the sustainability. Everyone wants to be the life which is heading for the environment education. But the target-oriented businesses, what they will do? They spoil all the things which they have studied in the education, because doctors also have a target, hospital running also have a target, AIMS must be knowing that. All the banks have a target, and these target-oriented businesses spoil the whole education. Thank you. So
thank you, ma'am. But I would really like to add on that we'll get enough time with our dignitaries at the lunch table also, so you can get a hold of them at the lunch table, because every 30 seconds are now going to cut your other 30 seconds from the lunch break time. So my dear friends, now it's the time for the release of that book that I was talking about, and this is People's World Commission on Drought and Flood, and Dr. Rajendra Singh, he has been a key person to come up with this book. So I would like to invite you, sir, on the stage, and we would like to do the honors of releasing this book. Let's have a round of applause for Dr. Rajendra Singh. May we please have the books on the stage for the release? Such a cordial gesture. Let's all of have one copy. We'll release it all together. In the meanwhile, let me please tell you that after lunch, we have got a very special session. It is of utmost importance, and it is with UNESCO. So please, you better be on time after the lunch, because lunch is going to last for 30 minutes only. Let's have a round of applause for the release. And now, since the dignitaries are over here on the stage, so I'll request Dr. Ram Bhush to please felicitate all the dignitaries, the eminent panelists of this Educators Roundtable. Firstly, we would like to felicitate Dr. Iraj Barucha, the moderator of the session. Let's have a round of applause for him. Thank you, sir, for being with us. Next felicitation for Professor Rajiv Ahuja. Professor Madhaban Nanda, Director, AIMS. Professor Ashutosh Tiwari, we would like to thank you as well for being in the 6th International Conference on Sustainability Education. Mr. Alan Egbert, we would like to felicitate you as well. Thank you so much for being with us. And now is a felicitation for Ms. Stefiana. Thank you so much for joining us in the 6th ICSE. Thank you so much. With this, I thank all the dignitaries and the delegates and everyone. I would like to invite you for the lunch. Plus, please please, please, please be aware that lunch is for the 30 minutes so that we can be joining here again for that session with UNESCO. Thank you so much. See you on the other side of the lunch break. Thank you.